Yeah, absolutely.
They still have a presence there. BTW still has a significant presence in Florence, albeit their hub is here. The GM's here. I'm sure goes back and forth some. But, of course, WPD and UPN or CW21 have moved their operations to Conway.
Right.
It's amazing to think, of course, Fox 43 had been here.
They started out here.
Small presence there in Florence, but grew that. So it was the other way around for us. But the three folks moving down here, all based in Florence. Florence is the city of license, but their main operations in Horry County. That's a big change.
That
and probably
is
a difficult thing for viewers in the PD to see their kind of the home.
That's probably true to some extent, but it's funny because I remember when I first came to the Bureau, the criticism we would hear all the time is, well, you're a Florence station, aren't you? No. No one knew that we existed down here.
Oh, boy.
And that's what the most frustrating thing was. We used to just complain all the time about, you need more promotion. People don't know, they think I live in Florence and I come down here. Well, that's not true. We had a staff of like 3 or 4 reporters and myself and a weather person and an anchor staff and a production crew. And we were down here and nobody knew it. And people didn't really believe us. I think they thought we were lying.
Well, that was a big, seeing the market grow there, and obviously the excitement for seeing WBTW change up.
So many things have changed.
And of course, within 9 days from now, 8 days from now, just 2 doors north of us here, WMBF
the new
launches their local end-market presence. WIS will go off the cable systems. WECT will drop off. They'll be on Channel 10 on all the cable systems. That's going
to be a big deal.
Big deal. And having a local presence, a 3-anchor setup, or a 3
newsrooms. That's going to be pretty amazing.
That's a big deal.
And it tells you how important this area has become. When you have that kind of dynamic. I mean, this is a very small market to have 3 stations like that. 3 fully operational, fully staffed. I mean, they're big. They're not small. The staffs are not small.
No, very definitely.
So
very definitely.
that's a big change.
That will be interesting to see how that shakes out and as the market grows. And of course, things have changed a lot. When you think back to Elmira, when you think back to a family operation owning a radio and a TV station market, do you have any idea if those folks still own those stations or have kept up with them at all?
I don't think they do. I think they also have been bought out. So, I think that seems to be the future.
Sure. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to hold on to things. Obviously, the Myrtle Beach stations for WPD and UPN 21 at the time were owned by a Myrtle Beach guy and a family out of Maine. Ultimately, they sold to a big
the Brown
group
family is who owned BTW.
Sure. And the Spartanburg connection, the Spartan Radio Casting, of course, selling off to Media General and seeing their growth. It is principally the bigger players that can consolidate.
Well, I think that's just the way it's going to be, because I think it's difficult to own to be a family, to own 1 station, 2 stations. Stations are expensive, so I think that kind of consolidation is probably the way it's going to be from now on.
Right. Your hand is back in a different way, off of broadcast television, on the radio every other week, but having purchased, am I correct, about
back in
10 years ago, 2000?
Yeah, in 2000, I bought a little publication called Camping Times. It was started by a woman who actually, I think, had worked for the Sun News, or maybe was even here before the Sun News, whatever newspaper was here before the Sun News. And she was raising 2 sons, 2 young sons, and knew that there was a large camping community here, and felt that they were absolutely being ignored. So she started Camping Times, and was 75 years old when she sold it to me. How about that?
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
And this, of course, is principally focused on camping.
It's
that comes
focused
to the
on
area,
the camping community.
all up and down.
Right, all up and down the Grand Strand. I have, since we go throughout campgrounds, and it's distributed to campgrounds in South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts of Georgia. So, it has a pretty good reach, but it's a monthly, and it's just really for an opportunity for advertisers to reach those campers. Because campers are a big factor. I mean, Ocean Lakes alone will double the size of Surfside Beach during the July 4th week.
Yes.
So, you know, they definitely have an economic impact on this area. And, of course, the campgrounds are huge.
Right.
Absolutely
Ocean Lakes
huge.
Family Campground is 300 acres.
300,
a mile
310
of oceanfront.
acres, an tenth of a mile oceanfront. In total, between the campsites and their what they call permanent lease sites, over 3,400 campground places
Not just at Ocean
there.
Lakes alone. No.
That doesn't include Lakewood, which is another huge campground, and then Pirate Land right down the road. I mean, it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
The things up there on Lake Arrowhead, very significant.
Yeah,
the Myrtle Beach
Apache,
Travel Park,
Myrtle Beach Travel. Yep.
And then, of course, the state parks. Do you cover the state parks at all?
State parks, yeah. I have boxes in the state parks
Sure.
and cover them as well. And then there's a campground in Conway. There's one up of Highway 9 called Willow Tree.
Right. Wow.
You know, kind of more of an inland. Tabor City, North Carolina.
Oh,
you know, they
yes.
get a lot of people from here too. And
Sure.
so camping is a big, big deal. And with the economy the way it is,
Right.
camping ends up being an economical way to travel, even though gas prices are high. Campers, they will still, you know, the gas prices may be high, but they find ways to save in other ways. So
that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I knew the significance of. Now, had your family been in camping? What prompted you
We've
to
camped
buy
before,
camping times?
Just because it was a way for me to continue to do some journalism and to still have my fingers in the field.
Sure.
But it's a home business.
Oh, yeah.
And my children are very young. Well, were at that time very young when I bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the TV station was a great experience. I love BTW to this day. I still think the world of those people. But it was very demanding, just as journalism and broadcast news is.
Right.
And it was very difficult having children that I was, you know, they were little. I was
8
putting them
and
daycare.
5 back in, 2000. Yeah.
I wasn't seeing them very much.
Right.
So, you know, and then of course the hurricanes would come, and you know we'd pack them up in the car. My husband would pack them up in the car, and they'd head off wherever. And
your mom's
I'd
out
be
on the
waving
street.
goodbye,
Yeah.
see you in
God.
30 hours or whatever, you know, however long the hurricane was
Yeah.
going to last. And that got a little bit tiring after a while. So I kind of felt like I needed to be with them more. So this gave me the opportunity to do that.
Yes, very definitely. Great thinking. Well, that is a difficult transition, I'm sure, at times, being on air, particularly on live television, and then transitioning to
which is why I think I kind of liked the opportunity to get back into the radio.
Yes.
Was because that kind of let me have my fingers still in broadcast, but not having to worry about the daily grind and that kind of thing.
That Steve and Dave can do the daily.
Right,
I
let
mean,
them
you
do
know,
the daily.
every day
Right,
they can be in there, and surely they have a great following, so it's good to get into that. And of course, recently having joined the Herald and doing some great writing for the Herald to see that to kick off, we were particularly thrilled right out of the gate to see a couple of stories that came out, and then the Freewood Farm piece.
In the Burgess community, which is a living history, a living farm, a living historical farm.
Right.
It's got a lot of potential. They've got big plans for that farm. I mean, they've started out.
How did you find out about that, Lorraine?
Well, you know, it's funny. Just driving around, to be quite honestly, I actually thought it was going to be another residential neighborhood.
Right.
I said, Freewood's Farms. Oh, they must be building back there. And then all of a sudden, I saw this huge barn thing go up, and I'm thinking, that's an interesting way to market real estate.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, my daughter actually had come home when she was in elementary school and was telling me about this great farm that they had gone to. So I thought, oh, that's a farm. And she said, oh, yeah. She said, we went there and they did something with sugar cane, and I don't know, but she loved it. So when I started writing for the Herald, my curiosity, I thought, you know, I want to find out more about that. And
Absolutely.
Called the people and found out a whole history thing there that I never even knew existed.
And a very significant one for a lot of folks in the community that may not have been familiar with it.
Absolutely, because it really highlights the contributions of black farmers to this area.
Right.
And, you know, and how they've grown and prospered. And it's funny because I think the gentleman that we interviewed said that Mr. O'Neill Smalls, who is one of the he's a lawyer. He taught at USC.
Sure, that's right. I've been involved.
But he said a lot of people from the Burgess community, he feels a lot of the young people kind of had turned their back on the black farming community, and were embarrassed by it. But when you go there and you see what they've done and you realize the contributions that black farmers made in those early days, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, right, you realize it is something to be celebrated. It's certainly not something to be ashamed of. So it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Thrilled. You must be one of the few, if the only, instance of this being written about in the area.
I really hope, and I'm confident, because I've had people talk to me about the article in the Herald. I really hope that people take advantage of it and really take the time to go learn about the history that's out there. It's absolutely, they have tours, they do different things during different times of the year, as far as, they do the sugar cane, you can buy they do their own syrup. I mean, it's just, you can buy vegetables out there on Tuesdays.
It is really a living farm.
It is a living farm. But they use the old technology that Afro-American farmers used back during that time, and it's just fascinating.
You mentioned your children were at 8 and 5 then back then.
Yeah, now they're 16 and 13.
Think about that, Lorraine. Yeah, your son jamming on both the basketball and the baseball field.
Yeah,
and your daughter, of course, doing a lot of horseback riding.
She does a lot of horseback riding. She's into the horses. So, we did a story on the 3 stables, or actually there's 4 stables on McDowell Shortcut Road, and here you have these 10-acre pieces out there with stables and people riding and whatnot, and it's like in the middle of, between the Intercoastal Waterway and Bypass 17. You've got this little oasis there where, people are still doing that. So
it's amazing.
That's great.
Well, you've really tapped and recognized an untapped area.
And it's really, I enjoy it because I have never, most of the stuff that I have done before in television was what we consider hard news. Right. Didn't do a lot of feature stuff. This is more feature-oriented, and you really get a chance to talk to people, to learn about their lives, to learn about their likes and their dislikes. And I like the writing aspect of it. It gives me a chance to be creative, where maybe I haven't been able to be as creative in some ways with television, because it was just, the facts, ma'am, and nothing but the facts.
Yes.
This gets you a little, gives you the opportunity, as I said, to be creative, to delve into histories and to learn about lives that maybe you wouldn't have the opportunity to do that in television.
We are thrilled about that creativity. We want to see a lot more of it. I'm sorry we've run out of time, Lorraine.
Okay,
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to a little more Carolina People with Lorraine Woodward coming up next. Catch Lorraine's creativity in action in this morning's Myrtle Beach Herald or piece on the South Strand Ambulatory Care Center, or you can go online to myrtlebeachherald.com and see some of those fascinating pieces over the last few months. Lorraine, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Great.